So before we talk about marketing, the most important question a seller has in his mind is what is my home worth? Or what can I get for my home? That's a very important question about pricing. And pricing is based on data. It's not based on what you see online, Zestimate or Redfin estimate or anything like that. So the way we come up with pricing is by a method called as comparative market analysis. Simply put, it just means that I analyze what houses in your neighborhood has sold for in the last 6 months to 12 months. So I look for houses that are very similar to yours, similar in size, condition, upgrades, location, etc., etc. And I look at the sales data, sales price of those homes, and from those sales price data I make adjustments for the differences between your house and that house, particular house. Adjustments are made for the differences in square feet, upgrades, condition, location, and so many other minute details which make the buyer pay a certain price for that particular house. So that's called comparative market analysis. And one of the most important surprising elements what sellers know is that pricing your property slightly under the market value attracts so much more buyers and often results in the highest possible sales price. That's something surprising for the most home sellers. So there are three pricing strategies a home seller can choose from when they put the home on the market. There's something called pricing pyramid. So when you put the property on the market at the exact market price, you attract only 60% of the buyers. Whereas if you put your house on the market at slightly below market value, say about 5 to 10% is lower than the market value, you attract about 90% of the buyers on the market because it generates interest. Because it generates interest, it creates more showings. More showings means more competition, more interest, and often more offers. When we have more offers or multiple offers, that is when we are able to get the most possible price for the property, because we can use one offer to compete with the other offers, get the buyer to increase their offer price. So when coming up with the market value of your property, I look at not just the past sales data, but I also look at the current competition and also the current state of market. Current state of market, I mean how quickly are the houses going under contract. That will give us a better understanding of the current state of market, because the sales data is from the past. Last sales could have happened in your neighborhood in the last 3 or 6 months or even 12 months. The market is behind us. But currently, the situation would have changed because the economic situation changes, interest rate changes, the competition changes. Everything has to be noted before we launch the property on the market, because market keeps changing every single day. As new houses come on the market, new houses selling on the market, the value keeps changing. So it's important to analyze not just the sales data, but also to look at the current competition and also the current absorption rate. How quickly are the houses getting absorbed by the market? How long does houses stay on the market? Days on market. So there are three main pricing strategies. One is called aspirational pricing, that is listing well above the market price and hoping that a buyer comes along and buys the property. This rarely works well because it usually means that the house stays for longer time on the market. The longer the house stays on the market, the value is going to erode with the time on the market. Time on market is more like an acid on the house, because the value comes down the longer the house stays on the market, because the buyer starts wondering what's wrong with the house that is staying on the market for this long. So that is when they start coming and negotiating the price down. This strategy of listing above the market value causes the house not to sell quickly, and we may need price reduction to jumpstart the buyer activity again. Pricing the property higher than the market value usually stalls the process and the listing becomes stale. That's not something what we want to aspire for. The second pricing strategy is market value pricing, that is listing right at where the data supports. This is usually safe and steady, and it's very useful in a balanced market condition. The last one is called aggressive pricing, means pricing the house slightly under the market value, because this is what causes the to get the attention of the most of the buyers. And when you get the attention of most buyers, you get most showings, most competition, and most number of offers. This is what causes the urgency, the frenzy, and everything. This works especially when it's a seller's market, because you don't have enough houses already on for sale, and you find a property which is priced slightly under the market value, which causes more interest and more offers and the highest possible price, especially in seller's market. How do you pick the right strategy? This right strategy is based on your needs and your timeline. So if you have more time on hand and you don't mind some price reductions, you want to test the market and see how the market responds to your asking price, yes, we can try at the aspirational pricing. But I'll always caution my buyers about going for the aspiration pricing, because the longer the house stays on the market, the lesser the value it gets. You don't have too much time on hand. You want to sell quickly because you need the money out as quickly as possible. It is always best to go for the aggressive pricing strategy, because that is when things start moving quicker. But if you are like most sellers, you want to give like reasonable amount of time on the market, then you should try the market at market value pricing.